Well, hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are on episode 16 of Natsume Yujin-Cho, Natsume's Book of Friends. Oh, last episode was so good. Oh my gosh, the snow bunny was precious and adorable, and I have never been more smitten. I think the only time I may have found something cuter is in Hanako-kun. There are these little yokai called Moki, and they're like little rabbits, but they kind of have like the same beady eyes and the same little pudgy bodies. They're basically an equivalent to that, and they are absolutely adorable. I am just completely enamored with them. So yeah, that episode was really great. I thought it was gonna be a two-parter, and it was not. It was just a really nicely done self-contained story. So I'm really excited to dive into this week's episode and see what all we get, because season 2 so far has been a lot of fun. And I've gotten confirmation from my moderator, Floor, today that they are going to be releasing season 7 this fall, which is like, oh my God, I'm only on season 2. Now, I want to clarify a couple of things. First and foremost, one, I am not going to catch up by the time season 7 comes out. I know somebody in the comments is going to ask that, and the answer is going to be no. There's no time. There's no way. When I was watching Attack on Titan, which is a far different show than this one, around the time they were announcing like the latest season, people were like, oh, well, you can catch up if you just watch 2 episodes a week. And I was like, and I'll be honest, I did that. I also had 8 months in advance to do that, so I had a lot more time than just now with Natsume, but I also ran myself ragged, and I was a mental disaster, and I wasn't watching as many shows then as I am now on this channel, so there's just no way. So I know somebody's going to ask in the comments, are you going to be able to catch up by the time season 7? No, the answer is no. But I am excited because I will watch through until season 7. So even if it's into next year, I'm going to watch through all the way to season 7. So that will be exciting to be able to do that. That will be a lot of fun. And I'm really excited for that. So that's first thing. The second thing is you'll probably notice the format of this episode is different than last week's. I've had a lot of trouble. I'm going to be putting it in my August update video, but I have just had a lot of trouble lately with copyright claims and fair use and a lot of different targets being put on my shows, and it's honestly given me a lot of mental stress. And because I have lots of videos on this channel and I'm constantly worried that they won't be available to people and accessible, and then I'm gonna have to like backlog or backtrack, and I work a full-time job and do 2 side jobs on top of this channel. I don't got a lot of free time, so that free time that I could be reading a book or enjoying a night to myself or reacting to a show would be dedicated to like re-uploading things and taking up lots of time and effort. So I think for a few shows I want to try to scale back a little bit and do some timer reactions. I'll try to do some PIPs in the comment down below, but the setup that I have doesn't let me mess with audio. So if I have my headphones in, that means that it's gonna be to where the PIP won't have the sound. But a lot of people in the Discord have told me that they automatically put them side by side anyway, for one. For two, this is transformative content under fair use. You're not necessarily watching this to get free anime. If you are, I'm sorry that you have to go this way. You could probably pirate it off another site a lot easier. And I'm assuming you're here for the reaction and the discussion, so the sound technically shouldn't matter. And I know it's not ideal, but it's sadly the way that a lot of studios are going. And my fear is that with Natsume coming out with a new season, that those reactions might be targeted. So I'm trying, especially towards the later seasons, so I'm trying to kind of get ahead of the curve. So I do apologize that the format has changed, but for now, this is the only way I can have peace of mind going forward with the series and feeling like I'm comfortable reacting to it. So I hope that it's okay. And I'm sorry if it's not, but you'll still have my reaction and discussion. It will just be without sound from the series. And maybe you can sync it up if you watch it at home and have the dual effect. I've done that myself. So I've watched a few reactors in the past with timer reactions and I've synced them up. It's not the end of the world, right? The things we do for content. But yes, that's what I'm going to be doing until further notice with the series, just to be safe. So just giving y'all a heads up, and it'll be in my August video. So with that being said, though, I'm really excited to watch this series. So I hope you all are too. But we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right into Natsume's Book of Friends, Natsume Yujin-Cho, episode 16. And we're going to get this party started. And we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Turn my sound up since I have headphones in. I talked about this last week, but I really, really like... Oh, the rainbow's there now, too! The rainbow from the flowers! Oh! Oh, well, that's cool. I wonder if, as we go through the series, if we're gonna, like, if the OP is gonna alter, kind of like we start without the yokai and we end with the yokai. So I wonder if that means that we're gonna have some more changes go through the OP as we go. I will never get over Tanima's face just drifting into vision. Oh, the two friends that are not into each other. Yes. She fascinates me because she reminds me of Reiko. And then Tori with that damn salamander. Oh my god, Madara in the corner looks absolutely precious. I'm curious who Reiko is shaking hands with. If it's Natsume or... She was smiling in that one. I just love the manga confirming that Madara is based off of Falcor. Just the best. The best. Am I right? Huh, interesting. I'm so curious. What we gonna get this episode? Ooh, 'tis a shrine. Oh. It's like spring, right? Because the leaves are changing, but you're still wearing a coat. Oh! They're like the little dew gods. Are they like little ant gods? Yeah, go around it. It's a puddle. Natsume, you're too nice. A pathway is open. This is so labyrinth. It just feels like the little labyrinth gremlins. Like dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. Oh. Oh, shit. It is carrying a corpse. Oh, are we gonna get Notori? Oh, I like that. Looks like a question mark. That was a little bit freaky. Quite a bit. Uh-oh. That seems like Notori's calling card. Ooh. Why is he just sitting there? Patrol? Ha! Is that more than usual? Something that's gonna eat him? I was gonna make, is it gonna grab him by the arm? Oh, well, shit. Madara, where were you? Oh, no. And he left his book bag behind. Toko's gonna be sad and worried. Is it Notori? Uh-huh. Oh, well. Oh my god. Yeah. Did you not think that through? Yeah. Oh. Oh, is this gonna be a... Of course! Oh my god, Tamaki would swoon. An actor, of course, in disguise. Nadara there. Yeah. And with the, do you like hot springs? Why are you inviting me to a hot spring? Why? What? like, do you not have a girl to take with you, sir? Yeah, why ask me? Man, read my mind. Oh, because he's an actor. Ah! Yeah. Oh, he doesn't have friends. Oh, yeah. We kind of established he doesn't have friends. Oh, come on, Mob, you can do it. How convenient. I want all the eggs and sake. Natsume's like, I hate life. Aw. Oh my god, he even showed up with roses. Such a responsible friend that's, you know, we've barely met, but look at his floral skills. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, with the blush. Oh, and him talking through the scarf. The BL elements of this are so there. Like, this is the plot of a BL. I'm just so excited. What a clandestine trip. Right. Oh my god, his little ball! Yes. Yes, please. But what will the students think? Oh, and here's, yeah. I thought I said this little exorcism. What a shady man. I don't trust him going off by himself to call. Yeah. Shady McShaderson. No, Madara looks so cute. Oh. Just pass out on the floor. I like that being like the result of a long and stressful trip. Oh, can relate. His little snoring. Did the other yokai come with Notori and meet him there? Want to go skinny dipping? But what was in the closet? Was it the yokai? Oh, I was like, was he kidnapped by the yokai? But no. Ah! I'm not a cat. Oh! Oh! The shade! Oh! Oh my god. Don't dirty the water, sensei. I'm made of clay, you know. I would love to go to a hot spring, though. Uh-huh. Yeah, it is kind of creepy that it just moves across his body. Does he notice it? Oh. Had to kind of... Oh! I'm pretty sure he hates them. Oh, God! What? Ah! She's like, thank you for sloshing me. What are you, a schoolgirl? Uh-huh. We'll talk about that whole thing. Oh, I almost thought that was a reflection and it moved differently. Oh my god. Uh-huh. Oh. Oh. But still, it's the gesture. Ooh. If only you were an adult. I can't let you do any underage drinking. Oh. Yeah, he can tell him. Oh. Notori, you know it's there. I'm sure. But you came from the springs too. I wonder if they're here to exorcise her from the springs. And Natsume doesn't know. But you would have kept seeing it. Yeah. I wouldn't tell him about it. Don't. Yes, exactly. But he would. Oh. Yeah. You're the one that brought it up. Yeah, what's in the closet? Is it the hanging body? I feel like Madara would have already found it. Oh, is that the urns? Is that an urn? Oh, but the seal's broken. Oh, yeah. Is it the urn? Oh, creepy. Oh, but what about the little shrine with the head in it that the people were carrying off? What a waste. Oh my god, you and Freerin would get along great, Madara. For the kitty. Aww. I'm glad his eyes are red so we can tell the difference between them. Because sometimes they look very similar. Oh, his little blush! His little blush! I like that we don't have to necessarily know or assume Natsume's sexuality. That's not really important in the story, but if you want to add subtext, you very well can, if you'd like. Oh. Ooh. Ooh, he's not lying though. No. Oh. Yeah, ooh. But Toko and them don't. Yeah, no. Oh. 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 But he's not wasn't lying. They do like him. Madara's like, Madara's not trusting. Oh. But he wasn't there. I don't think it has leaks. Oh. Oh God. I'm And you heard it pop off, right? Yep. Ooh. Was this like Twilight music that came on, or X-Files? But the seal is starting to come off when you guys saw it yesterday. I love the reds and oranges of this scene. It looks so burnt. Yeah, there's the head. Oh. Oh. Madara. Oh no. Oh crap. Oh, Reiko's even been here. Sumi. Oh. But if she hates humans, is she going to try to hurt him if he gives his name back? Ooh. I wonder if Notori came to exercise her and also to get the Book of Friends out in the open to figure out what it does. Oh, uh-huh. Now he knows. And now he knows. Oh, shit. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, damn it. And then Notori! Oh. Oh, my God. I mean, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Oh. You intended to exercise her the whole time. Ah. Ah. To finish what was started. Yes. So you lied. Ooh. Ooh. Mmm. Interesting. So it seems. Mmm. Okay. He's like, I can handle it. I got this. I can take it. Oh my God. Ooh. Oh, the paper. Oh. Oh my god. Ew! Oh! 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 Well, that was animation there. Oh. Oh. Oh! Hi! Who are you? Oh, Reiko. Oh no! Oh! Oh! Okay. Oh, the kindness he showed that one yokai saved them. Well, that was all ruined. Wow. Huh. But it paid off. Yes. Oh, I love the message of this episode. Oh. Right. Oh, oh, come on. Come on. Oh. Someday. Oh. Oh. Mm. Oh. Oh. My first trip to a hot spring. What a first event it was. Oh. Oh. Where should I start? Oh. Oh. That was so sweet. That was a really good episode. Man, I loved the message and theme behind this one. Oh, so good. Notori, he's so interesting. I feel like him and Natsume's relationship maybe, I mean, we'll talk about it. I like him and Tanema, obviously. They're like the sweet version of, like, if you want the sugar sweet relationship in this story, then you'll do Tanema and Natsume. But Natsume and Notori to me are, I think, my favorite dynamic because of how intriguing that they are. We'll talk about it in the discussion, but you know what? The first ED is so iconic, but this one's grown on me already so much. I honestly love how serene it is. It's very sweet, it's very simple, but it's also super cute. Is there going to be an end credit scene at this? Maybe not. Oh, well, they do a preview, that's why. Oh, I like him walking backwards so he can see them all. That's really sweet. Oh, oh man. Oh, well. I mean. So this episode was really good. Like really good. I want to go back and talk about it with you all because I really enjoyed this episode quite a bit. I like I said in the ED, I feel like Notori and Natsume's relationship is maybe, their dynamic is maybe one of my favorites in the series because it's complicated and because it has so much potential to go either way. Notori is a gray character and he does some things that you're like, I don't know how I feel about that. And then he does some other things that you're like, oh no, I really like that. And so I feel like either him and Natsume's relationship could build and become better and better. And I feel like there are ways in which Natsume can influence Notori in a good way. But then I also feel like Notori could make some decisions that may cause some strife between him and Natsume in the future. So considering that we have like 7 total seasons of this series, I think there's gonna be a lot of room for Notori and Natsume's relationship to grow, right? So yeah, let's talk about this episode. I like that we're carrying back on into spring. Winter is it was a short ass winter. It was like 1 episode of winter, and they're like, nope, we're in spring already, don't you worry. But yeah, we've faded into spring already. And then we have these tiny little deities, and they're carrying the head of their yokai lord, and there's a tiny little puddle, and Natsume's like, well, you could just go around it. Granted, with them carrying it, it would be a little bit harder to like move all the way around, but he puts down the little plank, and they're like, a pathway has opened. We're saved. Let's press on. Let us press on. And they just keep moving forward, and he's like, they're so tiny. And he's like, the shrine is about the size for carrying urns. And then you see the skull like flicker for a hot second. And the animation of that was really, really good. I thought that was impressive. But here's the thing. The whole message of the story is that Notori doesn't like yokai. He hates them. He would honestly rather they not be around at all. And so it almost feels definitely like Notori wants to get Natsume to kind of get on his side and to kind of like, you know, be like, hey, what if we just exercise all of these yokai? Why do you have to be friends with them? And he's trying to like woo Natsume over to the dark side in a way. But what I love about this episode is that Notori's plan fails. Like, that spirit was going to attack them both. And maybe it wouldn't have killed them, but it would have hurt them. And instead, that little act of kindness that Natsume did for the one little yokai is that little act of kindness. Because let's be real, if it had been Notori and he had saw those little yokai carrying the little shrine, he probably would have just walked on by them. He would have walked on by, sneered at them, and been like, you're not worth my time, and would have kept going because he has, you know, quote unquote, bigger fish to fry. But because Natsume took the time to be kind in that moment, that good karma came back and was paid forward by the end of the episode. And I think that one of the things that I was really happy about in this episode is that at first, when Natsume does something good, the one yokai, she takes advantage of him. Like, his kindness, he's like, well, I'm gonna give you your name back, but you gotta promise you're not gonna hurt anybody. And she's like, oh, of course. And I'm like, Natsume, once you give her name back, she doesn't have to keep your promise once you do that. She's gonna be free. So what are you doing? But he's nice. And then she takes advantage of that kindness. And what I was afraid of going into this episode was that Notori would have been like, well, now see, when you're nice, Natsume, you don't always get that niceness returned. And that is a lesson. You sometimes don't. Sometimes, you know, a good deed is punished for no reason. And you're like, what the fudge? But in this case, what's so nice is that we do see that those tiny little acts, like, it is important that Natsume is kind. It's important that he's nice to the yokai, even if he doesn't fully understand them, even if he doesn't like love them or even like them. He's getting to understand where they're coming from, and I feel like that's half the battle. He's trying to work up his courage to say what's on his mind and how he feels about these things, but those feelings are developing as we go throughout the story. So I love that message. I thought that was really, really sweet. So the moment he pulled out that little paper train, I was like, oh, Notori's here, because that's like his calling card, right? I love that Madara was probably out drinking sake and causing a ruckus. And he's like, well, I was sweeping the area, making sure there was no yokai that were trying to lure you off and eat you. And I'm like, well, you did a great job of keeping him from getting taken by Notori, Madara. I'm like, I feel like that's just his excuse to Natsume for going off and drinking. But yeah, so the little paper chain takes him away, leaves his poor book bag behind, and then he runs into Notori, who is surprisingly not in sunglasses. He is in his bucket hat era and trying to keep unnoticed. But, you know, that does make sense because he is an actor and people notice him like off the streets. So, of course, he has to try to keep out of the public eye. What's so interesting to me is, again, Notori, he's someone that doesn't really have any friends. He kind of acknowledges that. He can't really have a girlfriend. I feel like that's interesting to note. The agency doesn't want him to take a girl with him to the hot springs because that's too much gossip. Like a tabloid or paparazzi, if they see a girl with him, oh my gosh, his fangirl, club will just freak out. So he can't do that. He doesn't seem to have a girlfriend anyway. And then he doesn't have any other friends because he strikes me somewhat as like a Reiko equivalent in the sense that he doesn't have many friends and he doesn't want them because they can't relate to him. Whereas Natsume is kind of the opposite, where even though Natsume grew up feeling ostracized for his ability, he is making an effort in high school to make friends that don't have that same ability as him and to try to be normal. Whereas Notori has accepted that he's not normal and he's chosen a profession where his lack of normalcy is common. Because if you think about it, like, what profession would be better for someone trying to hide the fact that they're not a normal functioning member of society? Why, being an actor, because famous actors and celebrities are not normal functioning members of society either. They have to stay out of the public eye. They don't have to interact with the public. They just have to show up and do their job. They can do a lot of things behind closed doors because people are like, oh, well, they're actors. They need their privacy. And he's able to make connections with higher up powers that enable him to do things maybe that fly under the radar. So it's honestly a perfect gig for Notori to be an actor as someone that can see yokai, because it gives him all of the alibis and all of the excuses of not having to be there and not having to be social. So it's kind of perfect. Like, if you want to be a non-functioning member of society, be an actor or an actress because it will seem convincing. So that's so fascinating to me. Luckily, the fangirl club is not, they're not jealous of Natsume yet, so that's a good thing. Honestly, though, okay, I realize that I read a lot of BL, and Romania gets her shipper goggles on quite a bit. But can we be real for a hot second? Is this not literally a BL in this episode? If you had told me this was a BL, I would have believed you 100%. If you told me this entire scenario was the start of a BL series, I'd been like, yep, that all checks out. Because yeah, the idea of the male actor that doesn't want any fangirls near him or isn't interested in a girlfriend at all, and instead woos the young man who shares the same ability as him to come to a hot springs with him to go look for ghosts. But in reality, it's just a way for them to get closer and build on their own relationship. It writes itself. We were one smut scene away from this being a BL. I'm not joking. This is an episode of Sasaki and Miyano meets Mob Psycho, essentially. But yeah, I mean, you have like all the girls that are like all into Notori, and he doesn't care about any of them, Notori Shuichi. Instead, he takes a young man to a tea house and sits there oogling him with his little dreamboat smolder eyes. And I'm like, what? I'm going to take a picture of that. I mean, let's be honest, y'all. He could have taken anybody to the tea house. He takes Natsume, and this is the look that he gives him. I don't know a lot of heterosexual men who look at other heterosexual men like that. I just don't. I could be wrong. If you are a heterosexual man and you have made such gaze at another heterosexual man, please comment down below. It's just it very much gives me Jinchi vibes from Apothecary Diaries. But anyway, so he's like, have you ever been to a hot spring before, kid? It felt like Airplane, that comedy where it's like, have you ever been on a plane, kid? Have you ever sit on a grown man's lap? And then Natsume's like, I've never been to a hot springs. He's like, you want to come to one with me? And he's like, what? I love his reaction. Kamiya saying the line, huh? It's just so damn funny. And then he's like, sure. He's like, I got a pair of tickets. I love that Madara, who is so skeptical of Notori, does not think Notori is good news. The moment that Notori says that the hot springs is pet friendly, Madora's like, take me. I want sake and fish, damn it. And I want a hot spring and I want eggs. Also, this episode does not make it the 480p does not help in distinguishing Notori from Natsume. The fact that they both have golden hair, I'm like, now granted, Natsume is more cool colors. He's more of like a cool gold, you know? And he has the golden eyes, whereas Notori has like red eyes and then more like a warmer tone of gold. But they look very similar. Notori has a little bit more wave to his hair, but their haircuts are very similar. I'm like, mangaka, you couldn't let Notori have like, I don't know, white hair or like blue hair or some other color, whatever. And so I like that Madara says he's shady as hell. I love when he has his little face pressed up against the window. That was really cute. But then he's like, yeah. And so Natsume's like, well, why me? Don't you have any other guy friends? And he goes, no, you're the only one who will see the same scenery as me. Now, granted, he invited Natsume to try to flush out the yokai. And Natsume was the only one he knew that would be good for that. But it also is, Notori always does strike me a little bit as sad because he can see yokai like Natsume, but he has no interest in befriending other humans that can't because he doesn't think that they will be able to relate. He feels like he'll have to lie, and we'll talk about the whole lying thing in this episode, but he feels like he's not going to be able to relate to them. He's going to have to lie, and that it won't be, he feels like it just won't be, he won't be able to be himself, basically. And so Natsume's like, well, I've never been on a trip before. And then Madara's like, let's go, hot spring eggs, let's go. And of course, Notori clearing it with the family is him giving Toko a bouquet of roses and being like, can I take your son on a trip? And she's like, yes, sir. I like Toko's, which granted, Natsume is a very responsible person. So if Natsume trusts Notori, then why would Toko have any reason to suspect otherwise? But I just love that she gets that dozen roses and she's like, have fun, and then just lets him go. You know, what a respectable young gentleman. She's never seen him before, but man shows up ready to please. I love Natsume with the scarf in front of his face where he's just like, he's kind of embarrassed. And when Toko says, Takashi-kun makes sacrifices for us, so I'm glad to let him have some fun. Like, that's so sweet. Like, and I love Natsume's little blush where he's like, oh, like you just talked me up in front of this stranger. Like, oh. And that's not something that Natsume's used to. Like, before the Fujiwaras, he kind of felt like he was ostracized and called a liar, even though he wasn't one. And he's had to constantly, like, fight to prove that he's telling the truth. And here, he's able to be himself. Even though he is lying about the yokai to the Fujiwaras, they don't judge him. And I don't think they judge him either way. I think they'd be like, oh, okay. But I feel like I kind of get like a Beetlejuice vibe in a little way. Not that Madara is Beetlejuice, but I kind of get like the idea that Natsume is like Lydia, Winona Ryder's character, where he's like, I too am strange and unusual. But I feel like not that the Fujiwaras are like the Deets, but that the Fujiwaras are like Alec Baldwin and the other woman, her character, where they're the ones that die in the house and they're the ghosts too. They just feel like they're accepting, like that family's accepting of Lydia, the Fujiwaras are accepting of Natsume. By and large, I want to go watch Beetlejuice now, so that's one of my favorite movies. I love Beetlejuice. So good. And the cartoon is good too. But yeah, so they did a 2-day, 1-night hot spring trip for 2 plus 1 pet. Notori's like, had to put a down payment on it. And so it's really secluded. And Notori's like, perfect for a clandestine trip for where we can be friends together. I love Madara being like, I'm hungry and I'm complaining the whole way too. It's so funny. But yeah, they get this fresh air and they get to the lovely inn and check in. I want to go to a hot springs. Every time an anime does a hot springs episode, I want to go. I've never been to a hot springs, but I love a hot tub, so I feel like I would like it. And he's like, oh, I forgot to tell my manager about this little excursion. I'm like, bullshit, you forgot to tell your manager about this excursion? You had the whole way up there on the train and you somehow forgot? Bullshit. I feel like Notori was getting in contact with the association that he works for and being like, hey, I made it. I'm at the checkpoint. where's the spirit? What's it look like that you want me to exorcise? I feel like that was the whole deal, right? But the moment that Natsume and Madara get into the room and they just collapse onto the floor from exhaustion, I feel like we all can relate to them in some way, shape, or form. Like if you've been on a long trip and you finally make it to your destination, like I'm from the US and I'm from the Midwest, and where I'm from, the lower panhandle of the US where like the Gulf Coast is and the Atlantic Ocean, that's like a big prime destination, because when you're in the Midwest, you're not near an ocean or a beach. So going to the beach is a prime vacation destination because it's somewhere different. So a lot of times my family would drive down to the bottom of the panhandle along the Gulf Coast, and that's about a 12-hour drive. It's about a 12-hour drive. It's a long drive. But my family would do road trips there. And you kind of get that feeling when you finally make it there after 12 hours, you're just like, okay, we're here. And it's this big, just like half a day you've been on the road and you finally make it to your destination. You just sprawl out and it's so good. Like I felt Natsume just like crashing, like having that midday nap when you first get there. But yeah, so the closet, and then Notori shows up. So doesn't care to, he's like, want to go and get in the bath? I love that Madara was just instantly there. And Natsume is like, how dare you get in the bath before us? And Madara's like, I am a noble yokai. And he's like, Neko. The way Kamiya says Neko is so funny. He's like, I'm going to call you a cat or a pig. It's really humorous. I do like the way that the mangaka draws these characters. They don't make like Notori out to be this big beefcake, you know, this beef shonen. They all look pretty normal, right? But Natsume watching Notori and seeing the newt-shaped mark that moves around his body. I love that as he's standing there, like the newt just moves around. But you can watch and see Natsume like watching the newt with his eyes, and then seeing it like crawl around him. And then he kind of like blushes and turns away like, oh, I don't want to follow that newt, you know, if it gets down to his nether regions. There's so much BL subtext and coding in this episode. Like this whole scene in the bath, it's like the whole scene of him like watching the salamander like go down his body. And the thing about it is Natsume is the only one that can see it. So even if Notori had a girlfriend, the thing that would be kind of creepy though, that you kind of have to think about is like Tanama can kind of see shadows. So what if Notori dated someone and they could see the newt and they were freaked out and grossed out by it, right? That would probably like just destroy his self-esteem. Even though it shouldn't, it probably would. And so you can kind of see why he's a little bit hesitant around people that can't see yokai, because he feels like they might freak out. And then Natsume is saying, I don't know where to look. I was like, that line, I was like, yes! And he just like, he gets into the bath to like hide his blush. The BL coding, y'all. The BL coding. This line here, he says, I don't particularly like yokai, but I'm pretty sure that he hates them. And I'm like, you say you don't particularly like yokai as you've helped how many Natsume? Come on now. And that's when Hiragi shows up and kind of freaks him out, and she like splashes. I like that he dries off Hiragi even though she's a yokai, and she's just like, I'm, you know, dead. It's not going to make much difference. But, and then Notori kind of looks over. I like Madara's trying to get the towel. And Hiragi's like, oh, my apologies. I forgot how weak he was. Natsume's like, I'm right here. Thank you very much. But he dries off her hair. And Notori's like, well, don't worry about her. As he's holding a blow dryer, he's like, she won't catch cold. And he's like, oh, yeah, of course. And he's like, that's good. And that's the thing. Like, Notori has this posse of yokai helping him out because they feel obligated to, because he saved them, but he doesn't necessarily like them. And he kind of almost seems envious of Natsume a little bit because Natsume is able to be so nice to the yokai, or maybe he feels like he doesn't understand it. He's like, how can you be nice to them? Like, they're yokai and they should be serving us. Again, the Reiko and Notori comparisons seem pretty connected, right? So then, yeah, the part with the corpse hanging, I wondered if Notori did see it or if it just disappeared, but he says they're going to go look for it, and instead they went to go set up the room where they're going to trap the spirit in later. So that's what they spent all that time doing, interestingly enough. And Natsume feels bad. He's like, he invited me on vacation. We're supposed to have a good time. And I'm sitting here noticing corpses. And Madara's like, well, you can't help it. He should have noticed it too. So then they have an idea about the Book of Friends. Now, I wondered last season, once we met Notori, if he would find out about the Book of Friends and if he would try to take it. Because I don't quite trust Notori. I feel like Notori's not a bad person per se, but I feel like Notori makes a lot of assumptions about what he thinks Natsume is like. And I think he makes assumptions. And I think a lot of people make assumptions about Natsume. But like we saw in episode 13 in the season 1 finale, once you get to know Natsume, you kind of figure a little bit more about him and realize he's more than what he seems on the surface. And Madara has figured that out, but Notori has not. And so I do worry. I do think that Notori would take the Book of Friends trying to help, but do it in a way that he didn't tell Natsume or misled Natsume. I feel like he would do it in a way that would be deceptive, and that would break the trust between the two of them. So I could see maybe some possible foreshadowing. Because Natsume's like, oh, well, we can't assume he would take the book. And Madara's like, I can. Madara's like, I think he would take the book, especially once he knows what it does. And Madara says, well, I wonder if he's only being nice to me because he's after the book. He's like, that's what you would think. And Natsume's like, well, yeah, kind of. And he's like, see? But I do think Madara is right to want Natsume to not tell Notori, but it's kind of too late. He kind of saw Natsume use the book. He knows the book exists. He knows that there's a function to it. Will he try to take the book and use it himself and not realize you have to be a relative of Reiko to make it work? I don't know. What if he turned out to be like a secret relative of Reiko and they were like cousins? That'd be funny. But the thing is, this series, when it wants to be creepy, it's very creepy. Like the whole thing with the jar was creepy. Because it just was sitting there and you could just hear it. Also, you notice like the seal's broken at the top of the jar when they open up the closet, right? The seal's broke at the top of the jar so that when it pops off later, you kind of had like a foreshadowing to it. Like the people tried to seal the spirit and it just didn't quite work all the way. So yeah, he's like, I don't think we're in danger and I didn't want to spoil you by telling you. And Notori's like, it's okay. So then there's the dream, right? Again, this is BL coded. They're just sitting next to each other on the futon. You could have... Are there fanfics about this episode? Does this episode have fan fiction to it? If so, comment down below. Post it in the Discord, please. But yeah. And he's like, well... He's like, how are you getting well with your current guardians? And Natsume's like, yeah, they're very kind to me. And then that's when Notori says... Really now? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, if you ever get tired of lying, you can come to me. That is, we don't get to see Notori's face during that scene, but that line, if you ever get tired of lying, you can come to me. That right there says so much about Notori's personality. He believes that Natsume is just being nice and that he's lying. Because I think that Notori spent his whole life with, whenever someone finds out that he sees yokai, they've ostracized him and looked down on him, and nobody's been kind except for Natsume, who can also see them. So he's come to have this, viewpoint that all people, they're not worth getting to know well, because once they find out the truth about you, then they ostracize and you just turn their heads away. So he's lied all this time, as an actor. He's been an actor. He's literally been a liar for a profession. This whole time, not only in his persona, but in real life, to keep himself, for self-preservation, to keep himself safe. And he believes that Natsume is exactly like him. He's like, oh, well, you're just like me. You remind me so much of myself. But the thing is, Natsume has found a family that will take him in. Now, whether that remains true or not, I think it will. But I think there'll be some tests. But I wouldn't be surprised if Notori or another yokai or something tries to test to see if the Fujiwaras are kind to him, if they found out the truth. I think by the end of this series, when the Fujiwaras find out, because they're going to find out, I think that when all the dots click together and they're like, oh, then I feel like they're going to be these kind people that are like, Natsume's going to maybe get some misunderstanding and think that they aren't going to accept him, and it's a big old ordeal. And at the end of the episode, the two are like, oh, we accept you. And it's this big, like, I'm going to cry my eyes out moment. But yeah, but Natsume's like, oh, well, you think I'm lying? And then he has the dream about how when he was a kid, everyone called him a liar. And then him seeing the two Fujiwaras and them calling him a liar, that part was sad. And him crying when he wakes up, because that's the last thing he wants, is the one home that he has that he can call his own being viewed as not a home for him anymore. And it's like, oh my God. I'm like, Natsume, no. I'm like, Notori, quit putting bad ideas in his head. You jerk. So yeah. So anyway, I like that Madara is making sure that nothing happens between the two of them. he's like, don't worry, I'll sandwich in between y'all to keep the BL coding from getting too out of hand. So then he wakes up and he hears the jar pop off and tells Notori, and they open up the closet and realize the spirit has gotten out. And then as Notori gets ready to go outside and look around and get his preparations ready, I love that everything turns like oranges and reds and gets kind of spooky. Like everything turns like a very sinister shade to kind of match the decapitated yokai that gets her head back. And it's like, oh, like you can instantly feel like the mood of the episode transforming as they go find that corpse that looks kind of like Ringu. And she knows Reiko and asked to return her name. So it makes sense why Reiko would trap this spirit, because it was trying to eat people. Would make sense why Reiko had her sealed away. And, you know, she basically says, you know, I was this big hindrance. I was trying to eat people, but, you know, if you just give me my name back, I'll leave. I'm like, bitch, what? And Natsume's like, well, do you swear you're not going to hurt people in this end? Oh, sure, I pinky promise. Like, as soon as he said that, I'm like, once you give her name back, it's not going to matter. She's not going to have to listen to you anymore. And it's like, oh, shit. So, yeah, but Natsume, he assumes that people are people of their word. And there is some lesson to this where you can't be 100% trusting of everyone, in the sense that you have to understand that there are going to be some people in this world that will take advantage of your kindness. And that is a hard lesson to learn, because if you're nice to everyone, you think, oh, well, I'm nice to everybody, they're going to be nice right back. No. There are self-centered people and selfish people in this world that will take your kindness and they will not give it back. And that's one of the hardest lessons to learn growing up, is that you won't always get that kindness returned. But the bigger lesson in that moment is, just because you don't always get the kindness returned, that doesn't mean you shouldn't still be kind. Because he was still kind, even despite all that, it came back in the form of good karma, and that one yokai came back and stopped her. So, if that hadn't happened, he would have been like, well, what was the point of me being kind to the yokai? But no, there is a point. It's just that you have to be ready for the chance that it's not going to get returned to you. And so, I love that moment. And then, of course, Notori, like, rounding the corner and seeing him give the name back. And it's like, oh, you're able to do stuff too? Oh, it felt like when Notori turned the corner and saw Natsume giving the name back, it felt like a Sailor Moon transformation. It felt like Tuxedo Mask walking in on Usagi and being like, what? I'm like, I hope that Notori doesn't get any ideas from all this. I really do. And she's like, well, I have nothing to worry about now, so I'll swallow you whole. And so, yeah, they run away and get to this room, and I like that Madara does not trust Notori at all. And he's like, what have you got up to your sleeves? What have you been working on this whole time behind our backs? And him and Aragi have this room with all of the different, like, the seals and everything. The sad part is they took all these papers and made a seal, and the yokai just scattered them all, making them useless, you know. I wonder where the other two yokai were, because he has 3 that work for him, but only Hiragi's here. And on the mountain behind this inn lives a yokai who harms humans, which another exorcist nearly sealed. But the yokai entered this inn before the process could be completed. That's why I came here. So, you knew that Natsume hates killing yokai, so you lied to him. All to have him help you. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm pretty used to lying at this point. I'm sorry. I'm used to deceiving people. If I had known you'd enjoy it so much, I would have explained everything from the start. And he does apologize, and Natsume is like, well, I did keep things from you too, so we're kind of both liars, We've spent so much of our lives telling lies. Are we ever going to get to the point where we can just tell the truth to one another? So then we'll seal the yokai with a barrier around the whole room. So that yokai comes in. They try to tie her up. The thing that gets me is she gets this there are skin bubbles and everything. And I'm like, oh, it was very Akira for a moment. I'm like, oh, this is going to get crazy. And then that's when the other yokai shows up. I won't let you harm Natsume Dono. I love he says Natsume Dono. And Tori's like, who the hell is that? And he's like, I've been looking for you, Natsume Dono. And it's not that he wants his name back. He's just like, have you forgotten me? You made a bridge for me. And I was like, wait, what? And then, yeah, the 3 eyes. And then okay, you can't really see it from the curtain fluttering, but now you can with the skull. It's the yokai the other day. And he's like, don't worry, I'm going to purify her and get out of your hair. And then Tori's like, what? I love the expression they both make where they're like, what just happened? Excuse me? It's great. So yeah. And then they just check out. And they're like, where'd you come across a huge yokai like that? And he's like, I gave him a hand. And Madara's like, oh, you just can't help getting involved with them. Well, it worked out this time. He's like, but I can see them. They cry, get in trouble, break promises, repay favors. He's like, I can't just let them go and ignore and pretend like they're not there. And that's when Hiragi says the master just wanted to confirm that the yokai had been properly sealed, which they weren't. But I'm sure he thought it would be a good opportunity to talk with you as well. I like that Hiragi is kind of there to be like, hey, look, I know that seemed really shady of my master, but he did just want to kind of hang out with you because you are kind of like the only person he connects with, and you might be his only friend. So she's like, we're tired of him talking to us. He doesn't even really talk to us, so please help him. But yeah, I mean, I one thing I love about Natsume's character is that he's like, I can't just sit here and do nothing. Like, I can't just watch someone struggle and not try to help. And I love that about Natsume. It makes him such a good main character. And he's like, yeah, there are many things I want to talk about. And I love Natsume. He's come so far since season 1, but he also has so far to go, right? He's like, I want to talk to him about the yokai and be open with him. I want to be open with my guardians. But he's like, I don't know how to do it. He's like, I've spent my whole life being called a liar that you start to believe it's true. And he's like, I want to tell them the truth, but the truth is so hard now that I've been, now that I've been told that I'm wrong all this time, it's hard to actually tell the truth when it matters. And so I love that Natsume's like, I'm just going to keep trying. He's like, I'm afraid to say them out loud. I've been afraid for so long it's become normal. But someday I'll find the courage to speak. Very Mafiu from Given. It has that same vibe to it, right? To show the people I trust my true heart. Yes, I'm waiting for that day. We have 5 more seasons. I don't know if we'll get to it in 5 more seasons, but I wait for that. I'm ready for that day when Natsume can be himself. When he can be himself to not only his family but his friends. And so yeah. And I think Notori kind of wants the same as well. He wants to be able to open up to somebody too without worried about being judged, right? Because that definitely seems to be something that they both are afraid of being judged and abandoned because of what they are. Oh, that was so good. That was such a good episode. Oh, I loved it. Yes, please. Yes, please. So, yeah. Anytime Notori is in an episode, there's lots of fun stuff to talk about because he's such a great foil for Natsume. He's such a good foil. But with that being said, I'm super excited to get into next week's episode. I hope you all are too. I look forward to your comments down below. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Natsume Yujin-Cho. Bye!